It appears that the unstoppable bull moon is here, and in today's video, we'll be going over some very high-term time frame, more objective signals that suggest as well that do suggest that things are going to get very, very crazy, likely within the next month to month and a half. We are kind of like in that twilight zone. So in a more sincere tone, like we really are about to enter, at least from what we're going to be going over in today's video, a very likely period of just craziness. In other words, no Vaseline will be needed. It will be quite enjoyable for all. Anyways, going back into Bitcoin right here, let's start it off with some a little bit more on the fun side. The moon signal, if you're not familiar with this, very, very simple strategy. Longing when there's a full moon and then closing it when you get the new moon. And if you were to have just blindly played that for the past, I think this goes back to like 2016, you would have these returns right here with almost a 60% strike rate and a 3 profit factor. So not bad in that regard. And of course, this one did just fire it off last night. So last night, begins a period, I suppose. And what does that mean as far as what we expect for price? Well, just looking at this, we can go into the performance summary for this strategy, and we can see that the average winning trade has returned almost 14.5%. The average losing trade on the other side has been losing an average of about 680. Now, if we go into actual price action and put that into dollar numbers, about 14.5 to 15% to the upside would put Bitcoin where? That'd put Bitcoin in the next couple weeks, $120,000. Okay. We'll probably come to that number a little bit later as well. So just remember that one. And I think, a lot of people kind of looking at 120,000. So that does somewhat make sense, I suppose. And then of course, if it were to happen on the downside, obviously this is not 100% strike rate. It is it's a little bit less than 60%. So very much possible here. But if Bitcoin were to play at the downside of that on average, we do see a loss of about not 97,000 bucks, but about 680. In terms of percentages, which in terms of price action would put Bitcoin back around low $97,000 territory. A crash to $97,000. Absolutely fucking insane. Anyways, so that ends the fun portion of this analysis. Now it's time to get very serious. Very serious indeed, because it is Magic Internet Money Day, and Magic Internet Money Day is today. And what does that mean? It means we're going to be going over actually a completely different look at the signal right here. So what I'm looking at is the weekly BBWP indicator, which represents volatility, aka the dispersion of returns. And we are now seeing the weekly BBWP at 84.25 percentile. So why is this? Why am I bringing this up? And then where are we going to go from this? Well, first, I want to follow up on my video from, I think it was like a week or two ago now, where I went over essentially why I think that the market probably tops, why the timing of the of this next market top likely comes early on in 2025, and that was based off of looking at the weekly BBWP and seeing that we have seen all markets top in the 90 percentiles, and right now at 84.25 percentile, it's a consideration. I mean, I don't think that. I mean, obviously the top is not here, or at least I don't think that the top is here. But with that at 84.25 percentile, I wanted to look at the other times in history where we've actually seen the weekly BBWP above 84. And you can see it with these red vertical lines right here. And just blindly looking at the board, you can already very quickly understand that these were preceding some pretty significant moves despite volatility already being that high. So what does that tell me? It tells me that with high volatility in this portion of the market cycle, we've really entered like the crazy zone. So what I've gone through, what I've gone ahead and done is I went through all of the history of Bitcoin for these signals and documented the closing price for when that signal fired off. In many cases, these ones are actually even coming a little bit later than our current signal, and then march it off to the next major high. In many cases, this was a cycle high, but not always actually. So there is, I guess, hopium for a more prolonged rally, but there would certainly be one massive correction in between. Anyways, and then also recorded the amount of days taken from the opening of that prospective trade to the close. So I'll bring you over here to my spreadsheets, and we can see that there's been 7 prior signals for this. Actually, technically there's been 8, but I'll go over the last one because that one deserves a little bit of a nuanced explanation. Anyways, of these 7, we did notice that on average it took about 25 days for Bitcoin to reach the next major high. Again, not the macro high, although it was in many cases, but not always. And then, of course, the average win return was 90%. The minimum return we've ever seen from this signal was 46%, and the maximum was 165, with the median return at 74.5. So, these are very, very large numbers here. And when you even just look at this data, because there's not a whole hell of a lot here, it's really only 7 entries, you can see that, a lot of this data is actually very, very close to each other, especially for the time to the highs, in terms of days. So the longest we've ever seen for Bitcoin to reach the next major high was 42 days. The lowest was 14 days, with a lot of them coming in around that third or fourth week, essentially, of this current signal that we're witnessing. So let's now go back into price action, and we're going to take it another step further. But first, I should explain, there has been one time where this signal completely failed. That was actually very recently. In fact, it was back on over here during the March rally, where Bitcoin essentially topped out while hitting essentially this level right here. On the weekly BBWP, just around 85 percentile was the closing price for that. So, our closing, indication for that. Anyways, the reason why I'd say that this one is different, than the rest is, one, you weren't really seeing Bitcoin actually breaking out to a new all-time high. It was closing right at prior all-time highs, whereas most of the other ones are actually already making new all-time highs, except for this one right here. And also, we did see that the weekly BBWP, more importantly, turn down from this region. So if we do see it turn down from here, I guess we could entertain the possibility of like a major pullback and like a multi-month top here. I think that that's still very unlikely, but hey, that would be an objective signal to perhaps be looking for. But as we go forwards here, I want to now reference the weekly stochastic oscillator, and notice that the weekly stochastic oscillator is actually at a level that we've never seen before ever, except for once, which was, well, technically twice, but this one's a little bit too early over here to really care about, which technically was March of 2013. I've been saying this for a while, that this market cycle, if you want to draw corollaries to any prior market cycle, it would actually be this market cycle right here from 2013 to 2014. Not that I think that market cycles have to work exactly the same as they do. Obviously, all of these prior market cycles are different, so that is just a completely null point to begin with. But if Bitcoin is going to extend this rally like deep into 2025, it would probably look something like this. You get a major move to the upside very, very quickly, to kind of close out 2024 / begin 2025, and then spend the majority of the year correcting sideways before the second massive boom. So let's now go through what these numbers would essentially mean in terms of price action, put like actual labels on it. And again, in terms of average time in days, that's 25. So where does 25 days take us from, I guess, the start of this, which would be right here? That would be around second-ish week of January. So that gives us about a month here, or essentially a month here of fun times, I suppose. Again, that is an average after all. Some of them happen very, very quickly. 14 days. Some of them take a little bit longer. And then, of course, if we look at the average win return and even the median return, they're both actually quite close to each other. I would argue. That's 74.5% on the lower end versus 90% on the upper end. So, what would that look like in terms of price action right here? Well. 70% or 74 puts Bitcoin at $185,000. Okay, very interesting. And then, of course, 90% puts Bitcoin at about $200,000. Also very interesting. Of course, on top of that, we can go ahead and look at the minimum return, just the minimum signal that we've ever seen from this one, which was a 46% move, or almost a 46% move, I should say. And even that, on top of current price action, it's pretty easy to do the mental math here, but that would be about 156. So not bad, even on the lower end. Still a pretty fucking significant move, perhaps happening in the not so distant future, as Bitcoin does kind of, threaten another fucking massive breakout here. Anyways, yes, we spoke about or we should also speak about, how would you invalidate what I'm saying right now, in which we would expect to get something similar to actually the last iteration of this particular read, which was back in, again, March, before a very prolonged sideways and down market. And that would very obviously be with any sort of a weekly closure below that red moving average, just a 5 exponential. And it's actually at a pretty nice price right now, which is 99,400. So as long as Bitcoin's above there on a weekly closing basis, up is the direction. And pullbacks are just that, pullbacks before moving higher. On top of that, we can go ahead and match this up with something else over here on the monthly HPDR. If you've been on this channel for a while, you kind of know where I'm going with this one. But first, let me explain for the newer people here, because I know there's a lot of new people. By the way, good time for me to say, hey, if you find this content, if you find this content valuable or entertaining, or for any reason at all, please consider liking and subscribing. And then also leave comments. Leave comments, especially if you hate it. That's when you should really leave comments. Anyways, looking at it right here, the monthly time frame, we do see again at the beginning of this month, we essentially had a test of the median, and I said, hey, that first test very likely to be pushed back, very likely to pull back on price action. But the second time you see it approach there within that same month, very, very high probability that we actually see things bust on through. And again, that is essentially at the high of today, 106,500. Technically, it's a little bit higher than there, but realistically, I do think that this is, again, kind of a moot point. Bitcoin very likely to push on through. And at that, after that happens, anywhere between the median and the top of the 38.2 level is, I would say, quite likely. As you do see that the 38.2 level is, well, $176,000. That obviously will change with a new monthly open. It might go a little bit up, might go a little bit down, but probably somewhere around there. And again, that does correlate well with one of our prospective targets based off of this setup over here. Very, very interesting. Whoops, this is actually not the right criteria. So I want to delete that because also I have massive OCD and it really bothers me. Also, just while we're here, I won't go super into detail with this, but I do want to point out as well that all Bitcoin prior bull markets have topped out at minimum at the 61.8 level right here. So I'm just going to circle this one off so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this one right here. You can see our last market cycle, or Bitcoin's last market cycle, topped on a test rate to that region. Technically, yes, it did trade a little bit higher later, but in terms of price action, I mean, that I would have been very happy. I think most people would be very, very happy to be selling at that. Of course, the time before that was 2017. Again, perfectly testing that exact same region. Boom, high, and then back down. And then before that, this indicator was, or Bitcoin just didn't really have enough history to really populate this indicator properly, but so you can't really see the same thing. I mean, it kind of gets closer, I guess, but not in the same way that we do see in these recent cycles, the last couple ones especially. So, I would be very much cognizant of that, because if and when Bitcoin does, I mean, if it closes anywhere above this monthly median here in the next, 2 weeks, I think literally we have, just over 2 weeks, 15 days until December ends. Well, that's when things can very, very likely get even crazier. So I do think that we're in kind of the twilight zone right now. I do think that we're kind of in, the end portions in terms of time, maybe like another month and a half of this current rally before another major correction. That correction could very easily lead towards a continuation of this move as well. Definitely possible, but I want to take it one step at a time first, of course, and judge things as they come. So for right now, I'm going to continue to be bullish on this channel, I guess. Again, it feels like a guilty pleasure. It feels greedy. It feels extremely greedy at this point. We've essentially been bullish since beginning of 2023 or very end of 2022. I mean, it gets crazier, I guess. The strong get stronger. Anyways. Last thing here, or perhaps the last couple things, I do want to bring up, of course, it is a Monday. So Monday, we do have the Monday strategy. Again, another very, very simple strategy using the Quant Prime tool over here, similar to what we set up over here with the moons. This one even simpler, I'd argue, in that every Monday, this one opens along at 00 UTC Monday. Then it closes that long at 10 a.m. UTC on Tuesday. It's not the best strategy of all time, but it does give some nice insight into, when you have a bit of an asymmetrical return in your favor for that very particular time frame for Monday, which we derived actually from of course, the historical price action statistics indicator right here, which actually I don't have up right now, but that's how we that's how we kind of came up with the strategy to begin with. But anyways, going back into it, what I'm interested in, because this one's already opened at $105,348 price per Bitcoin. Fucking crazy. we can again go into the performance summary and see that the average winning trade has returned about 3.5%, the average losing trade losing 3%. So again, if Bitcoin were to play out around those averages, let's see what that looks like in terms of price action. First, to the upside, 3.5% puts Bitcoin where? 109 fucking $1,000. To the downside, 3% shaving off would look like 100. Bitcoin would be crashing all the way down to $102,222 of highly inflated US derps. Crazy shit, man. Anyways, that's pretty much it for this portion of the analysis. I did want to give a quick shout out to MetaSignals at the end here, just because they've been firing off all like some really crazy setups recently. Most of these you can get for free, by the way, in their Discord, which you can find a link to in the description below. Again, especially if you're like a newer trader, I do think that this is like a really good service to kind of consider, just because it gives you a probabilistic setup that you can essentially, well, one, you can learn from it, and two, you can also utilize it as well, obviously. And of course, for the more advanced people out there, well, I do think that just having this as kind of alerting you of, of probabilistic setups is obviously valuable in and of itself. But there's symbol AR, I think that's Arweave, having a fucking great move there very quickly from 21.5 to 23 or so, like not bad, hitting all three targets. And then this one over here, INJ, also having a monster move. And I should explain, this stop loss right here, this is done on a closing base. You can only see wicks below. So again, if you are not familiar with MetaSignals, do understand that they do things on a closing basis, meaning that until you actually close below that risk management, the trade remains open. So yeah, not bad. And then of course, they also have a couple of their major things coming up here as well. They do have, if I can bring it up right here, is this it? No, this is it right here. They do have copy trading coming for their service, which I've actually been looking at, and it's not bad. I mean, it's about plus 20% over the last month, I believe it was. So, not bad, especially if it doesn't really take too much fucking mind skills. And of course, with their service right now, you can get 3,000 USDT like tethers back into your account, cash back, if you purchase their NFT, which gives you lifetime access plus access. Also lifetime access to the Jewel as well, and a learning program too. So it comes with a lot of shit, especially with Ethereum here, essentially at $4,000. I mean, that's a fucking crazy deal, at least in my opinion. So if if that tickles your interest, check it out in the link in the description below. Again, it's, you can try it for free as well. I think that's the best way to check these things out. Like, try it before you buy it, and you'll see if it's something that is relevant to your interests or not. And again, that copy trading, I think it's coming this month, actually, or maybe at the end of this month. Anyways, we'll end things on that note. As always, I want to wish you the best of the best. A little bit of a longer video today, but that's okay. We'll come back at it tomorrow. As always, wish you the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully Tuesday.